We have here coming up on for session 2, I'm going to introduce the lovely Cori Riley. Cori Riley is a licensed, can we say licensed, trained resource? That's our words, right? Licensed professional counselor and the founder of Journey to Grace Counseling and Collective. She supports children, teens, adults, couples, and families. Can you say she do a lot of stuff? Through life's hardest moments, helping them build coping skills, emotional strength, and healthier relationships. Before opening her counseling practice, Cori worked as an elementary school teacher, school counselor, and child welfare investigator. Those experiences gave her a deep understanding of how stress, trauma, and family challenges affect kids and parents at every stage of their life. Cori achieved a childhood goal when she became a published children's author with her first book, Our New Normal, published in 2022. Cori is a proud wife to her high school sweetheart, Chris, a fellow Crockett, Texas native, and a mom of 2 children, Jackson and Trinity. Her work is shaped not only by her professional training, but also by real life as a parent, partner, and community member. In addition to her counseling work, Cori was selected to participate in the 2026 Mavs Business Assist Program through the Dallas Mavericks, where she continues to grow her work in mental health, education, and community impact. Today, Cori will be sharing practical tools for coping with stress, understanding how the nervous system works, and supporting mental wellness in families with children of all ages. Her goal is to make mental health simple, helpful, and something families can actually use at home. Join me in welcoming Cori.
One of the things that I say often is you have to do the P's, which is pause, pivot, or push forward. And so as the technology has been switched over, we are doing those P's. Pause it for just a second, pivoting in between speakers, and now we're gonna push forward. All right. So I appreciate the introduction. I am grateful for the opportunity to be here, as said before. And today, you guys are going to get involved into another world. Who, as a child or as an adult, because there's still a child that lives within us, read comic books? Show me with your hand. Or maybe you enjoy a great illustrated um, book with lots of pictures, maybe more pictures than words, or maybe just a few pictures and lots of words. So um, today, as we dive into becoming superhumans, the conversation today will be also how do we develop and raise super kids? If you are a parent, grandparent, caregiver, just like kids or have children in your life on a consistent basis, can you show me with your hand? All right, so just about everyone in here in one way or another are connected to children. Who is connected to the child that still lives within you? Maybe you enjoy being silly, dancing, singing in the mirror. Maybe you enjoy painting. Maybe the kid in you enjoy mowing the yard, and so you go outside and you mow and you hum or what have you. And so the child, just because you turned 18, that child within you did not just graduate, move out of you. It is still living, breathing, and a part of you. And so the experiences of your youth travel with you day to day. The experiences of you as an adult stay alive and well, no matter what. So a little bit about me. As shared in the intro, I am a Crocketeer. I lived in Crockett until I graduated from Crockett High School, and then I went to University of North Texas, so many dreams. And I love North Texas so much, I decided to stay there. I'm a walker, so you just broaden out that view, because I'm not gonna be. But, so my first big job was as a inspector investigator for Family and Protective Services. I did that for 8 interesting years. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about families, the needs of the communities that I covered in Dallas County, Denton County, and several of the smaller North Texas counties. From there, I decided I wanted to actually use a little bit of my education, which is counseling. And so I went into the school district as a elementary teacher for a while, and then transitioned to being a school counselor. And then COVID hit, and man, did it hit, right? It turned the world on its side, and we had to learn how to do life completely different. We had to learn how to do education differently, talking with our loved ones, living, going to the store, everything was different. And in that moment, I had a front row seat of what it looks like when a child has major differences and they're looking at the adults to figure out, what do we do? How do children learn is the question. Well, they learn through the lenses of the adults around them. When the adults around you, or around the children, are in a good, calm place, they have a firm grip for the most part on the circumstances and how to resolve them, then the children can trust that everything's gonna be okay. And so COVID gave me that opportunity. At that COVID, I was partially a kindergarten teacher for the first year of it. Imagine teaching a class of kindergartners virtually online, just suddenly, chaos. I also had 2 little children of my own at that time who were my co-teachers by proxy, because I had to do virtual learning, virtual teaching to kindergartners and have toddlers running around at the same time. Lots of drawing on the wall was happening in the Riley household. And that led me to authoring Our New Normal. Our New Normal is a book that was planted, the seed was planted with COVID, but it transcends across every situation. And so the purpose of that book is to help children and anyone that reads it understand that life happens, circumstances happen that are out of your control. How do you create your new normal within that? How do you use your imagination, use the tools that you have to create some normalcy and feel safe in that? That's how we all, as children and adults, understand our safety, is by outwardly looking to see if we're safe, and then inwardly checking in to see if we are safe. Moving forward, from Our New Normal, I was given the opportunity to go into private practice as a licensed professional counselor and play therapist, and then transitioned shortly from there to founding Journey to Grace Counseling. The name Journey to Grace is twofold. It is, we're all on a journey to grace, a journey to figuring out who we are and what our purpose is, and being okay with that, being okay with the stickiness that comes with that. Also, JTG are my children's initials, Jackson and Trinity Grace. And so the goal was to create a legacy for them as well, that doesn't just provide financial stability, but it creates a future that they can be a part of healing generations. And so then comes the journey of public speaking. I've been given the opportunity to speak to school districts, to Dallas County probation officers, to Denton, City of Denton workers, and I'm honored to be in the room with you guys. So my why, there's a village, you know, it says it takes a village. That village can look a lot of different ways. That village can be, small, it can be large. Trust your village. And if you look around and you're in moments and you need a village, build it. It's okay to start with the first link and then find those safe people, find those ones that have a genuine interest in you, and you build a village from there. Let's talk about why we're here, the objectives, because you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out. Okay, and so, I have been, able to take big, complex ideas. This is the gift that has been placed within me, especially as an educator of littles. Take big, complex, medical terminology and break it down into bite-sized chunks that you can eat, digest, and understand. And so today, we're going to understand resilience and its role in child development. Resilience is the key word that you're going to hear over and over in this talk. Resilience and how that translates into creating super kids, super individuals, superheroes. We're also going to talk about the unique challenges that our youth face today, because listen, it's hard out here for our youth. They have barriers and hurdles that we never had to face. We'll also learn to implement those strategies, because I don't want to just give you the fish, I want to teach you how to fish, so that when you leave here, you can talk to someone that either works with children or have the language yourself to talk to whatever child or whatever inner child that you need to have a conversation with. We're gonna learn how to model it through problem solving, create stable environments, and encourage effort over outcome. We'll get deeper into that right now. So what is resilience? Resilience in itself is the ability to adapt, to be a chameleon, right? So a chameleon starts out one color, and then when it gets onto an environment that is different from the outer color, it changes. It doesn't change who it is. It's still a chameleon at the end of the day, but it adapts. It changes so that it can be its best self, be safe wherever it has landed. Resilience also is the ability to recover and grow stronger from your experiences. And so, as the saying goes, life's. We can't stop that from happening. It's just, how does it impact you? Do you turn into Swiss cheese when life lives with you? Do you have those holes that just leave you whistling in the wind? Or do you turn to a duck instead, where you get covered? You might be soaking wet, but it just washes right off of you. Those feathers glisten in that moisture instead of drag you down. Okay. Some of the common misconceptions or some of the common misbeliefs when it comes to resilience is that it means nothing ever happens. You know, I've had many people tell me before, you just got it all figured out. You just make life look so easy. I had an older cousin that took time out of her day one day to send me this long, encouraging message saying how she is inspired by me. She's 20 years older than me. And she sent me a long message saying that she's inspired just by how easy I made life look. Emphasis on that second half of the story, of the sentence. It may look easy, but it's not. I've just really had to learn very early how to embody resilience, how to let those hits come and let it either bounce off or learn from it. And that's what one of the things we're gonna dive into. Another misconception is you're just born resilient, or you're not. You know, some people can handle it, some people can't. That's not true. There is a level of nature and nurture. There is a level of some people just genetically have the ability to withstand difficulties. And some people genetically are at have more weak points where, you know, if they hear that something did not go well, they fall apart a little bit easier than the person that has the genetic makeup to be a little bit stronger. But what we'll learn today is that resilience can be taught. If you find yourself on one of the firmer ends and maybe you want to strengthen that muscle, don't worry, you'll become a superhero today. One of the last misconceptions is that being resilient means that you're just able to handle it by yourself. You don't need anybody because you're strong enough to do it. That's not resilience. That is isolation. Two different things. A resilient person knows that they are best when they pair in with others. A resilient person knows that it's not just knowing how to do it, it's knowing who to join in with you to help carry the load. So what does resilience mean to you? When you think back into before you walked through the door, before I started to break down in this perception, what did you consider the strongest person? Think about who that person is. Who you might have admired, who you're like, that person has it all together. What were some of the characteristics that led you to that belief? As Julia said, I am a factor, so I welcome conversation.
I think resilience, the ability to adapt to objection, rejection, and the knowing all that you know, depending on God to hold your hand through it all.
I heard a few things that knowing that things may fall apart, but maybe it's not your job to put it back together. Maybe you can lean on someone or the one to put it back together because they can do a better job.
So some of the characteristics that I saw that people thought were revealed are, they really had a way of navigating what they were experiencing in a way, like a tool to help them navigate what they were experiencing. That looked to me as if like they had it all together. And I think the tools, because they certainly felt, I'm sure, but the tools that they used in the moment were not stagnant. They might have been stagnant inside and internally, but they did something between that internal work and the external to be able to present a picture of those.
Yeah. So being able to endure and then in the moment have what you need, either because again, you just are one of those that has the strength to be able to push through, or you allowed yourself to gather the tools to put them in place. And then demonstrate outwardly that recovery. You know, I think that's really important is that many of us assume that a resilient person, they just bounce out of the situation. But no, they probably hit, landed, had no other choice but to look up and then get up, right? And so I think you have also.
So I've been seeing that type of thing. And what you just said is exactly what it's everything falling apart and not having choice but and when everything falls and you don't have a choice. You get up, you put God in focus, and you keep going. Not because you are just made that way, but because he's the only other choice in the situation.
And that, what is the saying, heavy is the crown, And so for those of us that are in roles and wear a lot of different hats and we have the push that, okay, I can't stay down too long. I gotta go. I gotta keep going. Sometimes that resilience is without a choice. But there's still an important key of being vulnerable, being soft, being smushy is okay. So, for the sake of time, we're gonna speed through because I wanna make sure that you guys get your lunch in appropriate time and we get back. If you'd like to know more about raising super kids and being resilient, I will happily continue the conversation. So studies have shown that 40%, there's a 40% increase amongst young adults experiencing anxiety just from the last generation. Just from a decade ago, 40% increase. And so that means when you're in a room of 10 people, there may have been one person before that had anxiety. Now add 4 more. That's just in a small room. If you're in a large room, just imagine at least half of the individuals in there are experiencing anxiety. And very recently, statistics, research showed that mental health is the greatest health crisis that we're in as a nation. Greater than cancer, greater than obesity, greater than heart disease is mental health, mental wellness. Which is why we're here. You know, this is why we're championing and getting the conversation started, because we don't want it to end that way. You know, just because there's a rise doesn't mean we can't grab it and bring it up. And we're gonna all rally together and lock arms to do that. And so, when it comes to our youth, the screen time, these little devices and all the other devices, they're great when we think we're using them as a distraction. But what is happening is that we're losing our social acuity. We're losing the ability to be in space with each other and know how to interact, know how to talk, know how to, you know, feel the time without having to feel the time with someone else, right? And so in the past, there was limited access to information. And so we relied on books and the oral sharing of what's going on. Today, though, there's an overload because you have information at your fingertips at all times. There's access to news and social media. The world is telling you what to think and how to think, what to feel and how to feel, what to look like and how to look like it. And so what that does is it steals the ability to create that world for yourself on your own. And so when we lean too far into that, it really creates a handicap. That's why we put limits in the Raleigh home on social media and screen time. You know, it's such a blessing to have a mom that is a mental health professional for children and families. Where there was more face-to-face socialization, when you wanted to go outside, man, we went outside, didn't we? And then wanted to stay outside. The light came on, well, I'll go in the yard, but I'm not going in the house, right? And now there is this digital world that our youth prefer. And that's not so much because of, you know, them just believing it on themselves. It's the adults. We created that. When the milk carton started showing faces on it, then we started in that parental generation to start to not allow our kids to be as outwardly free. The only challenge is that milk carton is not the true depiction of reality. There are risks out there, but the risk is actually more in here and in there and in here than it ever is outside. Just statistically speaking. I'm also happen to be married to a police sergeant who can attest, I would assume, that there are dangers outside, but there are more dangers inside. All right. So in the past, there were fewer distractions and there was a stigma around talking through these types of things. Now, there is an increased need for these conversations. Not that hard stuff is, you know, not there, but there's a different need. We need to raise our hand and say, I'm not okay. There's strength in that. There's someone else that's not okay. And when you had the audacity to say it out loud, when you took on that role to say, I'd like to know more, I wanna talk to someone, or I need to journal this out, or I need to read a book that's going to give me information that will strengthen me. Guess what? There's someone else, and probably 5, 6, 7, 8 more that you gave a voice to by saying those things. So, emotional intelligence, it's not just about IQ, about being smart and knowing things. But do you know how to feel? Do you know what you're feeling? Do you know what to do with those feelings when you feel them? That's what emotional intelligence is. And unfortunately, many of us, especially our youth, have a very low EQ, very low emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is being able to be self-aware, recognize your emotions. Self-regulation, do something healthy with those emotions. Motivation, keep going, even though it's hard. Empathy, recognize in others what they may be doing, and then go a little bit further, feel it with them. So sympathy is just head knowledge, and that's us. But empathy is to be able to sit with it and maybe even adjust your response to be compassionate, caring, or careful with them. And then EQ requires social skills, being able to communicate, to resolve conflict in person or voice to voice, not behind, these courageous fingers, that type thing, but instead really being solved. So the question is, how do you help children understand that? For the sake of time, ponder that. I'm gonna give you the answer. Cheat sheet, straight to it. So when it comes to parenting, some practical strategies are start with encouraging a growth mindset. Teaching our kids that life is gonna life, things will be hard, but they are to help you grow. If you plant seed and you just lay it on top of the ground, nothing happens. I take that back. Something might happen. A bird may come, swoop it up, and they have a good meal. But nothing has grown with the purpose of why you planted it. Instead, it requires for the ground that it's on to be broken, for the seed to be planted underneath that dirt and that muck, then watered, given all that it needs to grow. What it needs, that air, that water, that sunlight, that comes through next. The praise of effort, the encouragement. We kind of walked into the Green Participation Award time, and that has taken out a little bit of the push of having the first, second, third place, because everyone, there's a balance that we need. Sometimes there needs to be a first place winner, and that person be praised because their effort got them there. But in other situations, it is okay and necessary to just acknowledge the progress that you tried. That could be enough as well. So allow also age-appropriate independence. There's a helicopter parent that hovers, or there is the parent that comes and checks in, gives them reasonable opportunity to make risks, helps when it looks like they need the help, but doesn't take it from them. Let the child, let the young adult, let the adults. Also, if you're a parent of firm adults, let them make the choices and solve the problem. If it's not gonna kill them, what will it do? Make them stronger. And that is in reality. We try to keep them alive and keep in that, push them to do more, do what they can. Also, model healthy coping skills. If you are a parent or an adult who crashes out or falls apart, don't be surprised when you look over and you see your child crashes out or loses control. Children, as I shared before, they learn through the lens of the adults around them. And so it does require us to regulate us so that we can co-regulate together. It requires for me to be able to say out loud, this is hard and I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm gonna figure it out so that the children around me can know it's okay to say this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out. Lastly, create a safe and supportive environment. Let our kids know that it's okay to make mistakes. All right, so what does allowing safe mistakes do? It builds their ability to solve problems, to be able to think logically, because if you get in front of that connection, then what you've taught is that the adult has the answer. I don't have to figure it out. I can just wait for someone else to figure it out for me. I have several adult clients that I work through some childhood wounds with, that those wounds stunted them right there where they were, because the adults, even in well-meaning situations, did not give them the opportunity to see the whole picture before they jumped in and rescued. And so giving the time to be able to think through and adapt, be critical, be logical, also just feel it. We don't have to rescue our kids from their emotions, especially our male kids, our boys. Allowing them to be able to just saturate in that sadness, that fear, that uncertainty. Let them know this may be uncomfortable, but I'm safe. Encourage independence. Let them find confidence that they know how to handle challenges. When you had a hard situation happen and you get to the other side of it, you look back, it doesn't hold the same weight anymore. You know, I can think through lots of times in my life where I thought there was a situation that should take me out. There were many situations that could have, near-death situations that had all of the ingredients to end me. But when I look back at it, I learned some things from it. I became stronger. I also may have learned how to, work around that risk so it doesn't happen again. Mistakes also teach emotional regulation. If you never go through nothing, you don't know what to do with it. And so giving the opportunity to hit a bump lets you know, okay, next time I need to slow down when I get to that situation and go over it with grace. Lastly, you can foster resilience. So what does it look like? Don't fix the problem for our children. Don't shield them. Focus on protection, and that's it. Not for rescuing, but let me keep you safe. That's my job, keep you emotionally and physically safe, but not to avoid it, not to avoid the hiccups. Never try to prevent discomfort, just be with them in it. Also, being able to encourage those low-risk moments and then praising them through. When they get to the other side, I knew there was something to do. That's one of my favorite phrases, right? Around the kids, I knew there was something to do. Because that was always something they could do. They just needed to get through it and try it. As adults, we need to know that children are watching them, that they are observing, that they are noticing where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and then they are using that information for themselves. One, to see, okay, well, when grandpa cried for this, it wasn't because he was broken, it was because it mattered. Or when grandma burnt her arm cooking that and she, yelled out some things, well, that makes sense because it hurt. So that gives me the opportunity as a kid to know, okay, I can be sad, I can be hurt, I can be silly, I can be goofy, I can also be courageous, I can be firm, all those things. Kids pick that up from the first moment when they are brought into this world, and they just keep continuing to understand that. Respond versus reacting. This is hard as a mom, I have to say. Staying calm when I feel like screaming, keeping my hands to myself when I feel like talking to somebody. Because every situation doesn't require that. And so checking, that's where that regulate, so you can co-regulate, check within yourself. Okay, what about this is irritating me? What is this? Am I feeling disrespect? Am I feeling frustration? Am I feeling confused? Whatever that is, I need to know my feelings wheel, what's happening. And then, once I got that, I can then give myself what it means. Okay, I need to take a breath before I talk this out. I need to walk out the room, I need to drink some water, I need to pray, I need to hum, whatever that is, to give myself what I need, regulate, and then I can co-regulate. I can talk to my child or the child with some clarity. I can communicate in a way that hopefully they'll be able to grasp and understand instead of just responding. Normalize the mistake, demonstrate self-care. That's where that walking out, taking the time that you need, giving yourself what you need. And then persevere through action. Show persistence. Just because it was hard, you don't give up. That's where those 3 P's come in. Pause, pivot, or press forward. Pause, sometimes, you know what, I can't give this any more of me. I just need to step away. That's okay to pause. Or maybe there's an argument about to happen between 2 adults. Pause. Allow yourself both to be able to think through what you need to say so that you can speak through your mind and not through your feelings. Pivot, try something different. If it didn't work, there's other avenues. Or press forward after that pause. You might, have the clarity to just put the pieces together now. You just couldn't do it at that exact moment. Classroom mistakes are very similar from what we see at home. But the challenge is we don't oftentimes take the time to give our students what they need. This is a point where, especially when I'm speaking with educators, I talk about the 25% decrease in disciplinary actions when you allow mindfulness moments in school. Being able to teach emotional regulation in every environment actually increases the opportunity to excel academically and be successful personally. So the language, how do we talk to them? How do we shape it through our words? Using supportive language instead of judgmental language. Being able to speak to our kids, speak to their self-belief, motivate them, give them a positive worldview. So here's some statements. On our left side, we have the judgmental language. You're not good at this. I don't even know why you tried. Stop crying. It's not a big deal. That was a bad choice. Sarcastically, you're so smart. On the growth side of it, instead of you're not good at this, you're still learning. Keep practicing. It lets you know there's room for growth. You don't have to figure it out the first time. You have to figure out the 10. Just keep practicing. Instead of stop crying, I see you upset. The next part is, how can I help? Maybe you can take some time to let those feelings die down. It's okay to just take a breath. But not telling someone to take a breath because you don't feel comfortable with their feelings, but instead allow them to take a breath because they need it, That was a bad choice. Let's figure out what we can do differently. What would have helped this to, get through without the hiccup? And then instead of that sarcastic, you're so smart. I love how you worked hard on this. Like really noticing the effort instead of tearing down the attempts. We're pushing the gas to get through. Some life transitions. When we're going from 0 to 5, early childhood, there's a lot, that's the biggest transitional period of one's life. It happens in lightning speed, and it is important during that period of time to have encouragement, empowerment, stability, and having those safe risks. If you get stunted in that window of time, then that childhood, that child that's in you will really need support as an adult. If you have negative and hurtful experiences in potty training, it creates things as an adult. If you have negative experiences as you're weaning from a pacifier to a bottle or off the bottle, then it will create things as adults. Sometimes the oral addiction comes from that inability to transition well in that phase. In your school year time, when you're going from 6 to 12 years old, the first day of school, changing teachers, making friends, those are natural life transitions that adults should be a part of and should encourage. In adolescence, during puberty, high school, getting your first job, more life transitions that create opportunity for resilience. It just needs to be modeled and supported. So the takeaways as we're coming down the hill of information. Resilience is not built, not born, resilience is built, not born. We can always grow stronger in that. Emotional intelligence matters. It's not just what you know, it's how you feel. You can be super smart and extra weird. So it's important to be able to bridge that knowledge of fear with knowledge here in your heart. Safe mistakes are learning opportunities. Emphasis on safe mistakes. That doesn't mean, I'm gonna let my child get behind the wheel and drive and I'm in the passenger seat. We're gonna take safe risks. Instead, maybe let's try driving in a go-kart together. Again, you just scaffold what is appropriate and not throwing them out there. Transitions are key moments. We may think, well, why is my child, having such a hard time with getting a new teacher? You're getting in the summer. Why are you sad? You should be excited. That's another grief point in life for a child. Any change of something that they've come into and settled with, that's a grief moment, and it should be handled as such. A lot of individuals will say that children are just little adults. Children are children. And they need to be given the tools to become adults, right? To have that stability and support. And strong relationships, no matter if it's the parent is important, but if the parent relationship can't be that strong relationship, then having other strong, healthy, safe relationships can be the key to developing the resilient and a healthy adult. And then language shapes that belief. How you're talked to and how you talk to yourself. Listening to the words that you use, encouraging yourself, speaking life into moments, letting yourself know that it's okay. Right? I would love to take any questions that you guys have after lunch. We're going to transition to feeling not just our minds and our hearts, but filling our bellies as well. And so I'm grateful for just a chance to plant this seed. I hope it fell on fertile ground, that when you have a conversation soon with a little one in your life, that you think about the words that you're using. My hope for you is that when you are interacting with a person in the store and you hear maybe frustration on the other aisle, that you may just share a smile with it, because that could be the key to lighting up that child's day, knowing that there's an adult somewhere that saw them, believes in them, and wants them to feel okay. If you have more questions, here's my contact information. Stay connected. You can follow me on the medias, send me an email, and I would love to continue this conversation in other environments with adults that want to help create super kids. Thank you.